What's up? It's Dominic D'Angelo. I'm of adfreeshows.com, SEScoops.com, and brassringmedia.com. Check it out. But I'm here today for Rumor and Innuendo. None other with Mr. Robert Karpelis, WE Creative _ish. Robert, TGIF too, my friend.
TGIF indeed. Very excited to be here. We will be joined momentarily by Mr. Justin Barrasso, who's he's connecting in now. So excited to see him. Excited to see the folks joining us here live in the chat. We'll say hi to Johnny Disco. Good morning, RNI. In other Undertaker news, old man yells at clouds. Oh, we'll get to that. E says, "What's up?"
What's up?
Old Jake takes on, says, "Hey, I made it live today. Woo."
Yeah.
Jeff Henninger says, "After listening to Working Stiff this morning, I don't know how Rumor and Innuendo can be considered a real wrestling podcast without Dom and Robert constantly talking over one another."
We never do that.
Never. Well, the advantage here is because our video is on, we're able to kind of see what's going on. When we had Mike Lawrence on with Scott Chapman and I, and it's a great show, but when it's three of us going, and as soon as one of us thinks of a joke, we have to blurt it out, no matter if someone's in the middle of a sentence. A little bit of a different posture here today. Dom, excited to get into all of the news.
Yes, the news indeed. Hey, what news will SmackDown conjure up tonight? Because they don't have anything really advertised for it. However, do they need to advertise anything for it, considering it's the SmackDown after SummerSlam?
Well, they've advertised the only thing I think that really matters, which is John Cena is going to be in Quebec. That's how they like to say it. But they're pretentious and obnoxious. And speaking of pretentious and obnoxious, we are joined by Justin Barrasso. Justin, how are you?
I mean, you couldn't have planned that on it any better. Well done.
We try our best here, but happy to have you joining us. Appreciate you. Justin shifted from Wednesday to Friday. We had Kevin Kellum on yesterday. We're like entertaining house guests all the time here, Mr. D'Angelo.
Oh yeah, everybody come on in. A cup of coffee for you.
Questions for you guys too, but I don't want to be pretentious and dominate the conversation. But
please do. That's what we're here for.
Dom, what was the highlight of your trip to Jersey?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one.
I know my highlight of his trip to Jersey was
probably, yeah, I would say I really enjoyed interviewing Charlotte. It was a lot of fun, actually. So that might have been my big highlight.
My highlight. My highlight was I asked Dom like night 2. I'm like, "Oh, are you at the stadium night 2?" He goes, "No, I'm in a hot tub with Crowbar and Danny Doring."
And we're watching SummerSlam. So that's my highlight. Definitely that. Also helping Crowbar wipe the blood off his back at GCW. That was nice too.
Better than in the hot tub, you know?
Better than in the hot tub.
Yeah.
There was that dude who used to interview wrestlers in a hot tub.
That could be Dom's gimmick.
No,
it's out there.
It made the hot tubs maybe a little deep for Dom. People saw that Charlotte video, and I think they're starting to realize he's not as tall as I've made him out to be.
I'm not 6'4".
You're not 6'4". You are not the Beast incarnate, but Brock Lesnar is the Beast incarnate, and John Cena is going to talk about what happened at the end of SummerSlam. Now, Justin, before we get into a very flimsy SummerSlam preview, since they really haven't given us anything, what have you kind of heard in the world of wrestling since the return of Brock?
It's very split. There's the camp that says, he didn't do anything illegal, which I agree with. And then there's the camp that says he still shouldn't be back. And I think both sides have validity, because you look at Hulk Hogan and the controversy surrounding Hulk for the last decade. Hulk Terry Bollea didn't do anything illegal. He wasn't going to prison for words he said. It doesn't mean they weren't harmful or hurtful or negative. And I think it's a similar thing. And I think that for Brock, the worst thing you can be right now is connected with Vincent Kennedy McMahon. And that's exactly who he's aligned with. So I don't know. I think this will be one of the more fascinating. And you heard the Heyman quote on Ariel Helwani where Brock's not going to get canceled. It'll be really interesting to hear how the live crowd responds to Brock compared to the internet. And they're kind of safe with. There's so many foreign markets like Quebec, or as I call it, Quebec. But I think that there are so many foreign markets that are hungry for WWE. Where's Crown Jewel? Australia or in Perth? They're really in a good shape, good position to get, I think, great responses wherever Brock goes. And I'm sure they'll use that to their advantage.
That's a great point.
Well, I think what's interesting about it is the timing of Brock Lesnar's return, given the week that the WWE just had. Obviously, 2 nights of SummerSlam, over 100,000 people in attendance, big media news story around that, combined with the announcement of that ESPN deal, which means they're now in bed with Disney, essentially. There, Brock Lesnar returning when he did not feel like an accident, and it kind of felt like a statement of, we've vetted this. Brock did nothing actionable. Brock didn't do anything wrong. I'm going to hedge my bets here, and I've said this a number of places, a number of times, since we have not seen that there was some sort of smoking gun that was pulled out. No Billy or Bart to be seen. The worst that Brock Lesnar theoretically did was receive content from someone else's girlfriend. That is sort of how WWE has framed this. With Hogan, he was canceled socially for using, perhaps, bless you, the most derogatory racial slur you can use in such a cavalier way. And it was out there and it was exposed, and people were like, we want to distance ourselves from him. And he did ultimately go on an apology tour. In Brock's mind, and he's always stood fast, like, I did nothing wrong. And that's always sort of been his position of, I received content of dudes being like, bro, check this out. Is that enough to get you necessarily canceled? WWE ultimately, on one of the most watched weeks of the year for them, said no.
Robert, I guess I didn't even consider this. What about the fact if, like, the litigation or the case decides to bring Brock in to testify? I guess I'm just a novice, so help me out here. Is that a possibility to happen, and what would that reflect on with WWE?
I'm sure they can. Look, Brock originally was not named in the complaint at all. Ultimately, they amended it to put his name in there, and I think that was sort of to garner salacious headlines. We're gonna rope him in, like in the Blake Lively case. They started trying to bring in Taylor Swift, and the judge is like, "There's a tenuous connection at best here." The focus for Janelle Grant's team needs to be on Vince. And what supposedly happened with him. They're trying to rope everybody else in to bring the WWE in because they do have the deeper pockets. But for WWE to give the stamp of approval, not only to bring Brock back, but to bring him back this week and bring him in there with John Cena, who has a lot to lose. And John said, I'm good with this. That's a pretty strong ringing endorsement that the WWE feels they're in a good position with Brock Lesnar. But I know you said, Justin, there's sort of 2 camps in this thought process.
And Brock's so important to TKO as a whole. When you look at the rise of UFC, modern day UFC, it really takes a whole new direction with Brock as heavyweight champion and the promos he would cut.
I mean, do we want to say
Brock
new direction? Are we sure we want to say new direction? Just saying.
Current direction. Like Brock, they took a huge turn when Brock became champion in UFC. So he's very important. So I don't think they bring Brock back if they thought anything else was going to break. But I think it seems like the worst. Brock sent some text maybe. But yeah, I mean, I think the bigger crime in public perception is the association with Vince McMahon.
It is. And I think, what Paul Heyman said on Ariel Helwani's podcast was really interesting, where he said Brock Lesnar is the one guy who you could confidently say first ballot WWE Hall of Famer, first ballot UFC Hall of Famer, and nobody would bat an eyelash. So for TKO, Brock is incredibly valuable. And I think unlike Hogan, good, bad, or indifferent, fair or otherwise, we hold Hogan to a different standard than we do Brock based on the persona. Nobody was looking at Brock
Yeah.
and thinking, that's a dude who's doing Make-A-Wishes who kids are going to be dressed as for Halloween. They're like, Brock seems like a guy where if you're walking down the street and you see him, you're going to run.
And just to be clear, I wasn't comparing the two acts, other than
Of course.
what they did was one was neither was illegal, but it doesn't mean they were right. Just in the same kind of camp, in that sense, not to lump them together in any other way.
So the other piece of fallout from that Heyman interview, as these pieces all sort of fit together, is the Brock deal came about over the last few weeks, and it's been clear that the original trajectory of this John Cena heel turn went off the rails because of Dwayne Johnson and because of Travis Scott. What's your take on that story there, Justin?
I think they were smart, and this is one of the things that Vince didn't do well in his latter years with WWE was pivot, but it wasn't working. Nobody wanted to see John Cena ruin wrestling, and there were parts of that heel turn that were compelling and captivating, but it wasn't about the ruin wrestling or take the belt with them. Or you could actually flip that now and have Cody give him a belt that he can leave with, like as a babyface. I think they were smart to change from the moment Cena came out. And I thought Dom was there, but Dom was in the hot tub watching. But Dom, the moment he comes out Sunday night as a babyface, it all felt so natural, so perfect. He was so miscast as a villain. And to go back to Heyman's comments, the one positive is there's no what if.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if he turned heel? Well, we saw it. And Travis Scott and The Rock submarined it. More so The Rock, because Travis Scott did come back at Mania. But I'm happy they realized it wasn't working, and they're going to end this on a higher note. Especially
I don't know that
Brock involved.
I don't know that it necessarily wasn't working, but I think one of the things that Heyman pointed out that was similar to the view that I had when this first happened was, as soon as John turned heel, they went to Europe, where that crowd was just excited to see John Cena in any capacity. And he said the audiences viewed it differently we're going to boo John as soon as he comes out. We're going to pop when we hear the music. And then when it's all said and done, we're going to applaud in a very French way of like, oh, what a performance this man was. You played a heel so well. Like, it's the same thing I see with Rollins, where that crowd wants to sing along to his song and have that moment. And then eventually it's like the collective unconscious suddenly realizes halfway through, oh, he's a heel, we probably should boo.
Right.
I have a Rollins question for you too.
Yeah.
I don't get the knee injury. It just doesn't. I feel like I'm in Big, is an old reference with Tom Hanks. And he's like, I don't get it. I don't get the knee injury. You can cash in anytime you want. That's the beauty of the contract. Are they trying too hard to create what we saw at WrestleMania 31, which was a really great moment? I just don't understand how, whether he fakes the knee injury or he just walks out at SummerSlam and Punk's gassed and he just fought this battle with Gunther, which I enjoyed, by the way. Mm-hmm. How does it make a difference? Is it a mental game? If so, I guess I could see that. But to me, he's got the contract. It wasn't like he had to cash in at a certain date and Punk thought he had the advantage. No matter what, Punk was at the disadvantage.
So I think part of it is we've been saying on here for months and months and months what was going to happen at SummerSlam was Seth Rollins was going to cash in on, we thought for a long time, Sami Zayn, ultimately CM Punk, to immediately win the title and move forward, which is what absolutely needed to happen. I was talking about this with a prominent wrestler, but we were talking about this and said you didn't need to do this particular path. It felt very WCW under Vince Russo of, we really have to work a very small number of fans that we're ultra paranoid about. You could have taken Seth Rollins off TV with a knee injury without going to the lengths that they did, in the middle of the match, bringing in the stretcher, making it feel like a real injury, which is what they overdid in WCW, where they were throwing up the X and, oh, guys, this is real, but everything else is fake. I don't like that blurring of the lines. I don't like Seth going on Rich Eisen's podcast and talking about his injury. I think there was a way to do this where he was injured and away, it accomplished a couple of nice things. It let the WWE test the water of how would Braun Breaker be as 1A of a stable, which was great. It gave them the opportunity to do the Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed match versus Roman Reigns and Jey Uso with Seth a total non-factor. It let Roman get his win that he needed to have and then immediately erase it from the audience's mind because we had that cash in at the very end of SummerSlam. Seth throwing the crutches was a nice moment, but it left a bad taste in my mouth that they went so far with this is a real injury and a legitimate injury that it kind of derailed that whole Saturday night's main event.
And the Goldberg, why is the Goldberg match 14 minutes? I still don't get that.
That's the other part of this. We kind of forgave the sins of that show in terms of timing because, well, the Seth injury threw things for a loop, and that was always the plan. It's creating chaos where you don't need it.
Right. No, I'm 100% think that would make a fair case for it, though, Robert. You get to showcase Braun and Bronson and see what he's like, to test the waters with him. And and that was a success, I think, in that form and fashion. But still kind of a head scratcher for me. I mean, you could have just had Seth even not be hurt, tease that he's cashing in, and it would still be a pleasant kind of experience that I think people would be expecting it. But, it's a storytelling element that gets into play. So,
and maybe they were trying something new, but it wasn't for me.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that for sure. Justin, let's also get your thoughts on the TV deal. Obviously, WWE, ESPN brokered a $1.6 billion deal and changing kind of the landscape of how we'll watch PLEs and consume WWE content. What do you think of this move?
I think it's exactly what WWE has always wanted, and especially in that Triple H era, but even Vince in the more recent time frame, they wanted that mainstream coverage, and they wanted it the way they wanted to get it. What a great way to do it for WWE. You're on ESPN. You're going to be covered on all the major shows. Like this is the Nick Khan universe, if there ever was one. It's exactly what they want. You wonder how, if and when there are scandals or controversies, how they'll be covered. They're partners, right? Like, what a great thing for WWE. I think ESPN is going to be happy with WWE's fan base, which is incredibly devoted and loyal. So I think for the two partners involved, it's a win. Again, I think it'll be really curious how things get covered that they don't want covered. I don't know how that'll go. I mean, we have an idea how that'll go, right? They're in a relationship together, but I think for WWE, I'm hard pressed to think of a better outcome financially or just in terms of their new home than on ESPN.
One of the strangest things I've found since that announcement is I've sort of been fighting windmills with people who have been complaining about the price and the price point in this new landscape. First of all, as an older fan, I remember pay-per-views used to be $30, $40, $50 a month. And to be a wrestling fan was a major financial commitment. During the Monday Night War, you were expected to be able to order WWF and WCW pay-per-views to be able to keep up with everything. So,
and they were both monthly, because at first WCW, when they switched, it was a big deal.
So that amount was already sort of out there, that if you want to be a wrestling fan, you got to spend that money. Obviously, the WWE Network bringing it back to $10 a month was an insane moment for fans. I am surprised that, they try to push out there, you pay that $29.99 a month, and you're going to get all the PLEs plus whatever the ESPN content is. We don't know exactly what that ESPN content was. The announcement didn't feel fully baked. And they're now going to have to try to educate the audience that this is a great value for them going forward. At the same time, Disney announcing that Hulu is folding into Disney Plus means people are now going to be saving money off Hulu. They haven't highlighted the fact that Peacock is raising its subscription price to, I think, $16 a month, as opposed to now where it's $10 a month because of their NBA rights deals. So they didn't do a great job of immediately educating the fans. And when you leave it to a wrestling audience to fill in the blanks, they're always going to be calm and rational and never go to extremes.
Never.
Which is why I wonder if they purposely, not misdirected, but it was almost like, get the announcement out there and we'll figure out the details later, because with WWE, at least, nothing's happening until January. But even if you had this, read the room, right? Get a temperature check on this direct to consumer, this DTC. Are they okay with the money? Do people freak out on social media? And then we drop, well, hey, you're not really paying $29.99 a month. It's part of your subscription. I wonder how much of this was all controlled chaos.
It's
There's
interesting.
some degree of that.
It released at 6 a.m. in the morning. Like,
yeah.
Who gets a WWE press release at 6 a.m. in the morning? Never really happens.
As someone who has small children who was up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I saw that come through and I was like, is this breaking now? Is this a real news story? Like, I needed to go check Variety and make sure this was a real news story and this wasn't some like weird AI generated or Sean Ross Sapp behind a paywall story here, that this was a real thing. Where I'm interested is how AEW pivots from this, because if I were them right now, WWE publicly traded under TKO, AEW wholly a family-owned operation. You hear people griping about that $30 a month price point, and they charge, I believe, $50 for their pay-per-views.
Yeah.
If I'm the AEW, I'm on the phone with Max right now and saying, make our pay-per-views available for $10.
Right.
Really just sweep in there and get that fan base that's angry about it and say, not only do we put on a better show, we're a better value.
Yeah, and I mean, you say what you will, and I say plenty about those long pay-per-views, but you're getting bang for your buck, so to speak, when it comes to, if you're doing $10 for 10 hours, ain't too shabby.
$1 an hour.
Yeah.
I agree. It'll be fun to see how AEW pivots because of this. I'm also really curious, and I think it's a story that we might not get immediately, but it's worth digging into. Come on. I mean, we all, I think, agree on this. Netflix must have had a first refusal. Why did they opt not to have like WrestleMania? Maybe because Mania was part of the big package. And I like the idea of ESPN broadcasting WrestleMania, but how did Netflix, this deal not end up with Netflix?
Here's my thought on that. Number one, I think WWE never, ever wants to be single threaded. They are very good about, we don't give one entity all of our content. So if something goes wrong with, UPN, we still got Spike TV over here. We're still okay. We can move to something else. Netflix has Raw. How many people are necessarily subscribing to Netflix that weren't subscribing to watch Raw, but are going to subscribe now for the pay-per-views versus ESPN, who's launching a new platform? You have a proven proof of concept in this WWE PLE system. You're automatically going to get people like Working Stiff last night recorded with Mike Lawrence and Scott Chaplin. They're not sports fans. They're going to be forced to subscribe to the ESPN platform because of WWE, whereas they would not have been subscribed to ESPN Plus before. And ESPN paid almost triple what Peacock was paying.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. It's for WWE, again, it feels like best case scenario, especially like you said, to have that diversity in shareholders, or now they're with Netflix and ESPN. I'm just surprised Netflix didn't want it all or didn't get it all.
Right. Because I think maybe they looked at it and said, how many additional subscribers is it really going to bring us? What a rough week for Peacock, who makes this announcement or loses the WWE, and then the next day they try to launch the Office spinoff trailer.
That was rough.
Which looks horrendous. It looks horrendous.
It did not look good.
And did I see someone leak the story that Peacock can get TNA? I'm guessing that wasn't leaked by Peacock.
I don't think so.
We've been saying for a while, I'm curious, where TNA is ultimately gonna wind up, especially with this loose association with WWE. It is surprising that AAA's next pay-per-view, or whatever I think is this weekend, is just streaming on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you think that AAA winds up getting a US TV rights deal, or is that just far too much content for WWE to be handling?
I think the priority is TNA. And I think that this is opinion. I think that TNA, and I've reached around, but haven't
the show is called Rumor and Innuendo. You're automatically covered by the name.
The name covered.
I really believe that TNA ends up on Wednesday nights.
Wow. Yeah.
broadcast. And I think, to me, there's a universe where they broadcast, and it's this one where they broadcast from the Performance Center.
Now, why Wednesday and not Thursday? I think they're on Thursday now, correct?
Well, they'd be direct competition with AEW on Wednesdays with Dynamite. You could run across against Dynamite. I actually think it would backfire. I think that the AEW with competition is better. Everybody's better with competition, but I think that AEW would thrive like they did against NXT. But if WWE loses that battle, it's not theirs. It's TNA's. It's like, well, we didn't lose.
Hey, it's not our company.
Exactly.
I've been saying for a little while now what I hope if I was holding the pen, I would have Karrion Kross show up in TNA.
Yeah.
And I would make the thrust of what he's doing. I'm going to make WWE regret not re-signing me. And you can still kind of have that war with WWE in a company that's not technically owned by WWE, but he's still part of the flock because he does have a fan base. Even, I mean, Heyman talked about it on Ariel Helwani's podcast. Like there's sort of a Steve Austin groundswell when it comes to Karrion Kross. The other side of that is that Sami Zayn match at SummerSlam was not great.
But I think
there's also no title for him to win. I'm sorry, Don. There's no title for Kross to win in WWE.
No,
that's true too. Yeah, I would love to see him in TNA. I think that would be a good way to kind of cross brand further. But at the same time, too, you create a little bit of intrigue and unknown. Oh, what's Kross going to do with this company now? He's a big part of this. Is he going to try to invade WWE? Or you can come up with certain elements to that too. That creates some intrigue.
Maybe I just want to see Karrion Kross versus Santana. I think that'd be a really fun match. But if he was there or backstage, you know what I hope he's not doing, Dom?
What's
that?
He's
not on that damn TikTok.
Oh, that's right. You don't want to be on that damn TikTok, especially if Undertaker's around. Robert Taker was on his podcast, and he had this to say about wrestlers being on TikTok, filming TikTok while matches are going on. He said, for me, I'm a notorious old school dude, man. It's disheartening sometimes when I go to one of the shows and you can't even find talent. I've heard recent stuff that you've said, like to even catch talent backstage watching matches. Like most of them are filming TikToks and doing all this other stuff. Even when I was still on the road and full time, Michelle McCool was on the road full time. You weren't sitting there watching. If you weren't sitting there watching the monitor, it was going to be a bad day for you. So is this old man yelling at clouds, or is this Taker's kind of got a little bit of a point here?
Old man yelling at clouds.
Can both things be true?
Both things can be true.
I think that WWE has put a significant premium on having individualized star power. So creating your own brand, being a TikTok star, getting a viral groundswell following is extremely important to the WWE. I don't think that talent needs to sit and watch the monitor simply because it's streaming. They can literally watch it on their phone. They can watch it in the car ride home. They can watch it at night. I don't think talent is not watching the product. Whereas 20 years ago, which went back when Dominic Mysterio and I were both breaking into the business together, the only way that you could watch SmackDown was watching the monitor live or getting a VHS tape or a burned CD sent to you. Otherwise, you couldn't watch it. It's now incredibly accessible. And if the talent's there and they're in their gear and they're able to make content that's going to get eyeballs for the WWE, go ahead and do it.
But I'd be disappointed if Taker said that. Like, I like the old guy in the room being like, oh, we used to do things differently. Great. Tell me all. And I'm a baseball guy, and this just came up during the Hall of Fame induction a couple of weeks ago with teams not including the veterans, like legendary Hall of Famers. Ken Griffey Jr. said his opinions aren't particularly welcome. Barry Larkin, Carlton Fisk, like go on and on. Jim Rice, and I'll get a Red Sox plug in there. But I love when the old guys complain. Like I don't know. That to me it's part of the fandom, and it brings together generations, and we can argue about it. Like, I'm glad Taker said what he said, and I completely agree with you. The guys should be focused on building their own brand.
I was critical of Taker this week because the roster for who attended Hulk Hogan's funeral came out, and Undertaker not being there felt like a glaring omission. Now, I get that him and Taker or him and Hogan were not the best of friends. But as the elder statesman of wrestling, as the locker room leader, I do think there's something to you go and you pay your respects to one of the legends that was around to set that precedent going forward.
It was really a who's who there too.
I won't disagree. I mean, and you'd think more reason for him to go would be that Vince was there, and a lot of times you'll see them travel together, but or be at the same event together. Yeah, I agree. More ceremonial than how you actually felt about the person. Yeah, that's a great point.
And I think the sad thing is there really wasn't a ton of precedent since a lot of the folks from that era didn't make it to a ripe old age where we'd be able to have that kind of conversation. But on that positive note, Justin, when not here gracing our presence, how can the fine folks tuning in Rumor and Innuendo find you?
Undisputed.substack.com. Big weekend. I know I'm still working on the Sunday notes. I'd imagine unless I go in a different direction, it'll be a more focus on the ESPN deal with WWE. There'll be a Boston Herald story this Sunday too. I'm still working on that. It's just the writing so long. I feel like when you mention the story before you have the interview, you never get the interview. So, but if I get it, it's a big one for Sunday. So I'm excited. So follow me on Twitter at Justin Barrasso. I will say in terms of the Hogan funeral, a guy that I always thought would be a modern day Gorilla Monsoon. And I just saw, following so many accounts on Twitter, it was a Vader gorilla face to face. And you forget how big Gorilla was even near the end. And I always thought Big Show would have been dynamic on the headset. Maybe someday he still will be, but I always thought he would have been the next Gorilla Monsoon.
He was not great on commentary. There were times he did. He fell into that trap that some of them do, where
he's such a good interview.
It becomes about him. JBL was the guy who I thought was going to wind up being the gorilla. He was really good on commentary, and I don't think he got a lot of proper due and respect for it when he was doing commentary. And it's tough for me to say a positive thing about JBL, but I am in this instance. He was great on commentary.
Yeah.
Foley was good on commentary if he didn't have Vince in his ear. Big Show is a dude who has just sort of vanished from the conversation.
But if you hear his interviews, and I've interviewed enough times, but I'll listen to his stuff, like Paul White's really, really interesting, funny. Like you wish that would carry over to the broadcast because. And what did he do? It was the Monday night show on AEW. Was that Elevation? Was it dark? What did he broadcast?
Elevation.
It didn't work.
Elevation is a part of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he didn't. I would say he didn't get a whole lot of opportunity to do it. I mean, in a lot of ways. So it'd be like, what was he capable of doing it? But yeah, it's an interesting thought for sure. He does have a personality. So
you also never know who's going to wind up taking off in commentary. Like I don't think anybody. If I would have told you 10 years ago Wade Barrett was going to be an absolutely incredible commentator, you would have been like, really? That guy?
Yeah.
Dude, Corey Graves too. Look at Corey Graves early in NXT. I don't think you'd see it in him. So you're right.
Corey Graves is fantastic. You get, Jerry Lawler falling into the commentator that he became based on what he was doing in Memphis never would have been a guy you would have earmarked. I think that a lot of talent needs to start looking at what do I need to do to set myself up for that next phase of life and become a commentator, because if you're good at it and you get in with the company, it's a pretty great spot to be in. And a great spot to be in is joining us here every Monday through Friday at noon Eastern on a plethora of platforms, including the WWE Creative_ISH X account, the @Dominic D'Angelo X account, and at the @SE Scoops X account, as well as on YouTube on ad-free shows, Rumor and Innuendo. Be sure to follow our friend, Mr. Justin Barrasso, @Justin Barrasso. Subscribe and read all of his great content, even if some of it's Boston related. We try to overlook it. So on behalf of the man who's too tough for sleeves, Dominic D'Angelo, I'm Robert Karpelis. Best of luck in your future endeavors.
Go Jim Rice, go Wade Boggs.